All right. You're listening to Mostly Metal on WVLP. This isn't live, but I'm saying this just as an introduction. WVLP 103.1 FM in Valparaiso, and I am happy to be talking with Joel from Elliott's Keep. You doing good so far today down there in hot Texas?
Yeah, doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You bet. So before we got started, I was telling you that I had a story about my tech, and just I think it's fun, and my listener might appreciate it too. So my last interview I did was with a couple of people from Seven Kingdoms, and I came into the radio station to use our recording deck, which makes everything sound really good. It can patch in phones and microphones and headphones and mix them all up and everything. Realized once I got to the station that I forgot my aux cord to plug my cell phone into the recording deck. So I had to rip everything out of the wall and rush home with the deck and reset it all up at home. So as I'm driving here today to get this started, in the meantime, I got a new phone. And I realized my new phone does not have an aux cord hole anymore. So I panicked, like, how am I going to patch it into the box? Am I going to have to go back home and set something else up? But fortunately, there's a Bluetooth button. So I was able to pair my phone to this deck, which was amazing. But the reason I was worried about the echo is because now my phone is on and the microphone is on, and I wasn't sure if I was giving you any feedback or double looping or anything like that.
Okay. Sounds good, though. Sounds good.
All right. So I mentioned that you guys are from Texas, and for listeners who haven't heard an Elliott's Keep song on the show before, I would say you guys are just straight up good doom, or maybe death doom, because you do a little mix of the harsh vocals and the clean vocals. How would you describe yourselves?
Yeah, I'd say we're predominantly doom, but we do bring in some other elements, like the definition of progressive music is that you're bringing in things from other circles, other influences, other genres, that sort of thing. So we grew up listening to a ton of thrash, be it Megadeth, Slayer, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So there's influences of that there, and then the doom, and also the death influence as well. And even from death vocals, or even some prog bands have or power bands will do some of the growly vocals, with the Beauty and the Beast kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, a good portion of that, and it all depends on the song, the lyrical content, the story of the song, where it's going, what type of feel it needs for different vocal phrases, that sort of things.
Mm-hmm. And you guys are a trio, right? So you, Joel, on the drums, Jonathan playing guitars, Ken, obviously a tremendous musician just based on his name alone, bass and vocals. You guys have sort of a secret agent thing going there with the names, because even on like Encyclopedia Metallium, you're only listed by your first names, and I noticed that on the new disc as well. Is that, obviously that's deliberate, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was just done, just Jonathan started it, I think, from keeping his legal practice, his work practice separate from his head banging, alter ego musical persona that he has. And so you're surprising. You don't find many head banging practicing lawyers, but he's definitely one of them. So it just started from there. It's funny. There's a lot of people that I know through Facebook, and they actually think my Facebook account is Joel Elliott's Keep, and they actually think my last Elliott's Keep. So.
Okay, so I'll just ask this right now, since you mentioned the band's name. Who is Elliott?
Yeah, so we were originally in a band back in 92 to 95, and it was a band called Marauder. And our lead singer back then was Glenn Riley Elliott, and he passed away in 2004.
Oh, man.
And Yeah, so it was bad news. It hit us all really hard. And in about 2006, the three of us were sitting around on Johnson's patio, having a couple cold ones, and just said, "Hey, man, we got to start doing this again." So, as they say, we're getting the band back together. So we were, just throwing around band names, and we percolated on a few things for a week or so, and we all agreed to give the tribute back to Glenn for the band name, and so it's Elliott's Keep in his honor.
That's awesome. I mean, it's a great name, and that's one of the coolest reasons to have a band name that I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, Glenn was an awesome dude. We love him. We miss him every single day, and just glad to carry on his name. His mom is a follower of the band. We send her band T-shirts, band CDs. She follows all our news online, and so she's proud of the band and the music and the carrying on her son's name. So we're proud of that as well.
That's amazing. Starting from the beginning, so you guys you have had 4 albums up until now, and now the newest one it's officially coming out very shortly. Is that right?
Yes, it'll be out on the 19th. So a week from tomorrow, I think that is.
Okay, that we're recording this on, what the heck day is it? Thursday the 11th, so it'll air Wednesday and 6 days from now. So yeah, like 2 days before the release. So that's perfect. So 5 albums altogether so far, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the first one was in 2008, and since then the gap between every album has been increasing by 1 year every single time. Did you notice that? So 2 years, then 3 years, then 4, then 5. So the next one ought to come out in 2028 by my calculation.
Yeah, I won't say how old I'll be in 2028, but yeah, that's not by design or intent. Actually, on this album, when Lacrimae came out, we had seen the dates had been getting longer and longer, but we made a commitment internally to try to write the record and get it done faster. But as the old commercial used to go, we will serve no wine before it's time. We write the songs, and however long it takes to develop good songs, and that's when we put the product out. So we actually spent a full year writing the song Omnes Pretium, and many arguments ensued within the band about how different sections of the song should go, and mainly between Jonathan and myself, being brothers. We can have a good throwdown in practice, and Ken just kind of stands back and his eyes wide open. And then the next day, it's all good. But yeah, we spent a lot of time on that song, and we're really proud of it. It's 7 minutes long, and we think it's a great tune, and it was definitely worth the time and the effort that we put into it.
Awesome. So I'm going to have you pronounce the name of the new album.
Vulnerant Omnes.
Okay. Because just for people that haven't seen the discography, all 5 albums are titled in Latin. And I took 4 years of Latin in high school. I don't remember any of it. But I do remember that, like, if you're reading Latin from an old text, the V's are generally pronounced as W's, but that's kind of weird. So I'm glad to hear you say vulnerant and not vulnerant.
Yeah, I mean, we had that discussion actually with our engineer, JT Longoria. Great dude. He's done all 5 of our albums, and we have a lot of fun sitting around the studio. And being in America, we say Vini Vidi Vici, right?
Mm-hmm,
we don't say Vici, because on our very first album, this came up, and we had the song Votus, and we pronounced it that way. And he's like, this would really be Wotus. So there was a lot of Elmer Fudd references going on in the studio that day, and we've laughed about it ever since. But yeah, we use Jonathan refers to it as instead of Tex-Mex, it's our Tex Latin.
Who is the Latin scholar in the group?
Jonathan and Ken usually handle most of that. For song titles and album titles, we all come together and agree, but they're usually the ones, they might come up with a list of 5 or 6, and and we'll banner them around and say, okay, definitely not that one, but hey, this one's pretty good, and then we'll narrow it down. And everything in our band with the three of us, it's all 100% agreed upon by all three. If there's a dissenting vote, then it's out. So we make sure that all three of us are happy with every decision, be it a song name, album title, album art, any of that. We all have equal say, equal voice in decision makings within the band.
So, with apologies for any mangling I'm going to read off the other album titles just to catch us up. So the first one was In Medias Res, and then Sine Qua Non, and then Nascentes Morimer in 2013, Lacrimae Moldi, you already mentioned that, in 2017, and then the new one, Vulnerant Omnes. I hope I did those okay.
Yes, I think it's Lacrimae Mundi. I think you had an
I have a typo.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So actually, that's a good story, because that's actually Tears of the World was used in the movie Excalibur, and Merlin quoted that. And our engineer, JT Longoria, that I mentioned, he actually has a tattoo of that on his body. So, independently, we came up with the album title. We come into the studio, and he's showing us his tattoo with our album. Jonathan was laughing and saying he's the only one we know out there with the Elliott's Keep album title tattooed on himself. But if anyone else has one, send an email to the band or hit us up on Facebook.
That's great. So the meaning of the new one, Vulnerant Omnes, we are the vulnerable all, or what's the translation and meaning of that?
That comes from the fourth song, Every Hour, and it's Every Hour Wounds. So that's where that's a lyric line in the chorus, and Ken's singing that as well in that song, and it's the title of the album.
Nice. Do you have any plans to play live to support the album at some point?
Yeah, we're definitely discussing when and where we're going to play. Obviously, we got shut down for COVID for a couple of years, and we saw you at the Prague Power Festival back in May, early June. I guess it was June 1 to 4 or 5. I guess it was. We came back from that, and I came down with COVID, and Ken came down with COVID from the festival.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, it sounded like a bunch of people at the festival also had it. Bands came down with it. So, but hey, I wouldn't trade it for anything. So great festival. And, but because of that, it was about 6 weeks. Ken's voice was not there because of the coughing and the hacking and all that fun stuff that goes along with it. So, we had, talked about doing an album release concert, but due to that, we weren't able to make any plans until all that cleared up. So everything's all good now. We're all well. So we still have to look at the calendar and the schedule and see what we can put together for that.
That's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome that you guys got COVID. It's awesome that everybody's recovered and is healthy and ready to do this whenever you get the opportunity. So as you look back over the 5 albums and also the new one, do you guys have sort of any consistent themes that run through your music? Again, if I drop 7 Kingdoms as an example, like they're very Game of Thrones based, and that theme comes back a lot through their songs. Is there anything like that for you?
Somewhat. Jonathan writes all the lyrics, and they're very story driven. There's normally a protagonist. And so I guess I would just kind of divide our songs into 3 categories. Going back to the very first album, In Medias Res, we had the Votus Iter and Sedicare, which were 3 songs based on the Crusades. And on this album, we have the Omnis Pretium and Et Sanguinum, which are a similar type of genre. And then, we've had, fantasy inspired like Maleficar on Sine Qua Non and things like that. Then there are a number of songs in the second category that I would say was like songs dealing with grief and loss, and a lot of those are reflections based on the loss of Glenn Elliott and just how we deal with that and how we process that. And so there's quite a few number of songs on albums. Like the first album, we had Kindred, and then on The Census More and More, we had Gates Beyond. So just different songs dealing with loss, and those are from our personal experience. But the listener, many listeners out there are going to have a similar experience to relate to, and so there are those. And then just character-driven stories. So, like on the new album, the single "Laughter of the Gods" that we put out, it just follows the character and how he's dealing with his life situation, and then some impending doom that comes upon him. So, I'd say that's kind of sums up, the overall lyrical process that we have.
And I think "Laughter of the Gods" is so far my favorite track off of the new album. So that's cool.
Well, I'm glad you like it. It was fun putting that video together. We had a good time shooting it. I had fun editing it and getting it all up there. So we're proud of that one. I think it's a good tune. And so there's a lot of different feels on the album. Every Hour is a very doomy song. Omnius Pretium is a very intense, faster song. White Wolf is one of our heavier songs. That song actually was a Marauder song back from 1995, and we had a live recording of Glenn singing the vocals at a concert we did at a local venue, Dallas City Limits. And we were able to go in the studio with that recording, and JT helped us pull off Glenn's chorus White Wolf bellows, and we added that to Ken singing on the album. So Glenn actually has a presence on this new recording. That's pretty awesome. We're happy to have.
That's great. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because when I was going through the tracks, to me, I remember thinking that White Wolf, you guys have a very consistent sound on this album and how it ties in with the others. And so it definitely fit, but it also kind of sounded a little bit different from the others. And I'm wondering if that makes sense. And so I'm wondering if that's the fact that it's an older song that you kind of resurrected for the album.
Yeah, it's an older song. There are middle parts of it that have the consistent doomier style or whatever, but it definitely has some faster drumming to it, some faster, heavier parts. I would compare it to our first album. We had the Black Wings song. It's kind of in that style. So in some ways consistent, but also, since it's from the earlier band, it's different in some ways as well.
That's a good name drop, because when I wrote down the discography, typo aside, I jotted down what was my favorite track so far on each of those, and Black Wings was my favorite from the first one, and then just to list them out: Shades of Disgrace off of the second one, Omen off of the third, and Moments of Respite off of the fourth.
I'm glad to hear that. So we love getting feedback from people on what their favorite tunes are and why, and just hearing what they like about each individual song and it's great to get that kind of feedback. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. Was Solitude Aeternus also from Texas?
Yes, they are from Arlington, Texas. And at the time they were big. I was attending the University of Texas at Arlington. So we got to see them many times at the local club scene, back at Dallas City Limits, On the Rocks, The Basement, all the local clubs.
Mm-hmm. Is there something about Texas that makes it produce doom bands?
I'm not sure. It's like, we definitely are good friends with them. We know Rob and John fairly well. And, John put out our first two albums on his Brain Ticket label. So we were glad to have that. And then he also did the guitar solo for us on that second album, so that was awesome to have. And so, they're definitely an influence on us and our style of music. And but I don't know if it's just Texas. I don't know. Maybe it's the heat. I don't know what it is.
It could be. All right, so we've been at this for about 20 minutes, and we've been talking about all this music, but it's time for me, I think, to play some. So can I ask you to help me program a set that I will dive into next when this is on the air?
Awesome.
I mean, I'm going to ask you anyway, whether you tell me it's all right or not. So, so here's what I'll ask you to think about and let me know. Can you pick one song that's more from your back catalog that is sort of the quintessential Elliott's Keep song as you look back over the different albums, how it is holding up, and also like a premiere track from the new one that really highlights what that album is about?
Yes, definitely. Let's see. I mean, one of our favorite songs as a band, I mean, it only goes back to the last album, but Tempest, I think, is the quintessential Elliott's Keep song. I think that's like one of our top 5 songs. All three of us love that song. We have a video online on YouTube. Anybody wants to go check it out, can go see that video. But yeah, I would definitely say Tempest. If you want something older, you already mentioned Shades of Disgrace. I think that's kind of a good representation of our music and what we do. And then from the new album, since we already released singles for Laughter of the Gods and Vanguard of Despair, I guess I'll go in a different direction and say Avon.
Okay. And can you give me one or two other bands that either because they're an influence or just they're in the same musical zone, a couple of other bands with a song that pairs well with Elliott's Keep, if that makes sense?
Sure. I've been listening to a ton of Wheel lately. I think they're a band that's kind of similar in style, being the epic doom, and we're huge fans of Democracy as well and Sorcerer. So even back in the day when we were in Marauder, I remember Sorcerer had the I don't remember if it's an EP or what it was. I think John Perez was involved in helping them get their first album out, and they had the song Sorcerer, self-titled song on that. That was a song we really enjoyed back in, I guess, 95, 96 time frame. But let's see, if I had I'm gonna have to think of, you want specific tracks?
If one pops to mind immediately, otherwise I can just farm into the band's stuff and pick them myself.
Let me see. I mean, I'm trying to stay away from, obviously for Solitude Eternus, there's, Spiral Descent and The Hourglass, Black Castle. Those are songs that I think pair well with what we do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so that's good. So I'll be following this up with a couple of Elliott's Keep songs and a couple of those that you've recommended there. So that'll be a good solid 15 or 20 minutes. So altogether, we've got like 45 minutes dedicated to Elliott's Keep here on the show. So the big payoff questions then, how can people purchase like actual copies of the CDs, get some Elliott's Keep merch? I know that there's a really cool shirt design out there. And how do people follow you on social media to keep up with what you're doing?
So we have, we're on the Facebook. You can follow us. There's a Elliott's Keep Facebook page, and then there's also, you can follow us at Joel Elliott's Keep, Jonathan Elliott's Keep, Ken Elliott's Keep. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram as EK Drummer. Also, there's ElliottsKeep.com. I know it's kind of funny in this modern day with social media. A lot of bands don't even have their own domains or websites, but we have ours. It's up there, and it has links to our social media as well.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Bandcamp page for Elliott's Keep, where all the albums are available, and there's merchandise up there. There's T-shirts, there's hoodies, things like that. But this fifth album is our first album to come out on vinyl, and we're really excited about that. I think it's awesome, and we're on No Slip Records, and so you'll be able to order the vinyl next week from them. And super excited to have that. We thank Robert Pilson for having us on his label and for putting that product out there, so you can get that through his webpage. That's No Slip Records.
Okay, that's awesome. So this has been a talk with Joel, the drummer from Elliott's Keep. They have a new album, Vulnerant Omnes, coming out Friday, August 19th. So 2 days after the first broadcast of this, a few days before the replay the following Wednesday. So thanks for taking a really good amount of time to chat with me. I hope it was useful for you and kind of fun. And hope to see you again at Prog Power, or if you guys make it up to Chicago for a show or a festival or something like that.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for playing Elliott's Keep and getting the word out. And look forward to seeing you at Prog Power, and Seven Kingdoms that you mentioned will be there next.
Yeah, that announcement just came out like yesterday, right? That they're opening on day 2. So that's gonna be sweet.
Cool. And hopefully we can make it up to Chicago, and we'll see you up there.
All right. Thanks again. Appreciate it. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too, sir.
Okay. Take care.